Welcome to this edition of Mental Health Monday. I am Lexie Rock, Communications Director for the City of Noblesville, joined by licensed therapist Kristen Boice and Mayor's Youth Council member Elizabeth Norris for this edition of Mental Health Monday. It's April 27th, and I'm so excited to be joined by both of you to talk about something so important to many students and families in our community. And Elizabeth is a Mayor's Youth Council member since her sophomore year of high school, and she is truly a shining star and working in the mental health and well-being space and doing a great job representing her peers in that space. And so I'm excited to jump in to hear more from her and just the way students are preparing for graduation, for going off into the workforce, college, all the stressors that come with end of the school year preparation for families and students. So thank you all for joining us, and let's get started.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So Kristen normally leads us in our deep breathing just to start things off, and then we'll kind of take a minute to reset, and then we will dive right into talking about graduation.
I think right now is the stressful time of year. It's year end for a lot of families, a lot of students. They're trying to finish up finals, papers, projects, and prepare for graduation for those that are a senior. And the families are also going through a lot of emotions during this time. So, the number one thing I recommend to regulate and calm your nervous system is deep breathing. I do this with every single client. They know when they come in, they take a seat on the chair on my couch. They're like, okay, we're going to breathe, because I want them to do it outside of the session. So if this is the one takeaway today that you practice, I highly recommend it, doing it every hour. We're going to inhale through our nose for 4. We're going to hold for 4 and slowly release out our mouths for 8, like you're cooling a cookie, cooling soup. You want a really long exhale. So you want to get a big belly breath in on that inhale. We'll do 2 breaths, feet on the floor, so you feel really grounded in the space. And we're going to really focus on relaxing the body. So we're going to take a big inhale through our nose, hold, and slow exhale out our mouths. We're going to do one more breath. If you notice that you don't get the exhale and your shoulders start relaxing, you didn't get a big enough breath and a big enough exhale. So I noticed some clients that go, okay, I'm breathing. I'm like, well, we didn't quite get the benefit of that full breath. So let's do one more together. Big, deep inhale and release. So if students are going through a big test, they have a big project due, they're public speaking, they're making this big transition to college, the breath, and for the parents that are anxious about their kid going away or worried about getting everything done or how they're going to transition, no matter what next step they're doing, whether they're going to college or they're getting a vocational degree or they're going on to work, this is important that parents are practicing it themselves. So then we're modeling for our kids what it looks like to calm our nervous systems down.
Yeah, that was super helpful, and it does make you feel like a bit of relief there, and kind of like, okay, now we can move on to the next thing, and with more focus. And so, thank you for that. And I think the big topic coming up is, graduation's coming up. It's exciting. It's nerve wracking. It's all the things. There's a lot of uncertainty for some students, a lot of pressure on picking what school you're going to, and kind of the what's next for you in your academic career. So, can we kind of, Elizabeth, maybe talk a little bit about the emotional impact of graduation coming up? And Kristen, if you have anything to add in there that to focus on, but kind of the reality that graduation is so near, and then so many students are facing that what's next, and excitement, nervousness, all the things.
Yeah, I think for me personally, like high school is super stressful as it is. And then you expect to have this break, but you're not actually getting a break, and it's just more stress that's coming with it. So it just kind of feels very overwhelming at times.
How are you managing it, Elizabeth? Like, it's everybody's so overwhelmed at the end of the school year and the transition. What are you doing for yourself?
Yeah. I think personally, I just have to offer myself some grace and like recognize that it's okay to be stressed and that like I don't have everything figured out right now, and that's okay. But also just taking time for myself and like giving myself a break from what's stressing me out is super helpful.
Yes. So what I noticed too is the parents have their set of emotions and then the kids have their set of emotions. The parents are grieving potentially, some not, but a lot are, that your child is leaving and they're launching and you're perhaps going to be an empty nester, or maybe this is your first kid that's going off to college, or maybe it's the second. Either way, you have emotions of your own that you're processing because it's the end. It's like the final chapter of whatever they're doing, year-end banquet or whatever their final things are. So the parents are going through their own grief, and then the kids are kind of ready to be done, is what I'm hearing from a lot of the
Mhm.
seniors. Like they're ready to be done. Yes, they're going to miss their friends. Do you feel like that? Tell us about senioritis and what that's like.
Yeah, senioritis is definitely really hard, especially right now with like AP tests and stuff coming up, and I'm just like ready to be done. So it's definitely really hard to like stay focused even and like, like keep your eye on what's ahead and like not get too far into the future of like summer and college and everything.
Yeah. How is it with your friends? Like, are you guys talking about it? Are you processing it? Or how
Not
does
really. It's kind of like avoidant. Like if we don't talk about it, then it's not happening.
Yes, that's so real because I think that's the thing where like we're going through it, but then you're so busy and distracted that it's hard to even think about all the things you've got
Hmm.
to complete. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you think about college and the application process and picking a school, walk us through what that was like for you emotionally and how you feel about making that transition.
Yeah, I thought it was super overwhelming. I mean, there's lots going into it. Like lots of schools are great. Most majors are offered at any school, so it's really hard to find like where you want to belong, and it's like you have to find the one that fits you perfectly. So it definitely is really overwhelming. But I think once you find that school, it's so much easier than going in because then you're looking forward to being there and like you had all I committed in August, so I've had all year to think about like the great things that are gonna happen soon.
Yeah, you committed early, which feels
Yes,
nice.
yeah.
And some are going on to take a gap year, some are going on to vocational schools, some are going on just to work. And
Mhm.
either way, it's a big transition going from high school to college or any of those options. Like it's a transition. Have you like what are you going through emotionally thinking about that transition?
I mean, I think it's just super like sad, honestly, to like leave this part of like your life behind. I've had like a really great high school experience, and then I'm gonna leave my family and all my friends in just a couple months. So it's definitely very like hard to recognize and like realize that it's coming to an end.
Yeah, and it won't hit you maybe till you're there. Like that's
Hmm.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you talk to your parents about the transition? Tell us about that because I recommend kids are kind of
Yeah.
processing along the way. Well, we don't even know what questions to ask sometimes. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think for me personally, because my brother's in college right now, so my parents have already gotten to see this happen before, so it's super great, and they've done a really good job of being able to ask those questions and prepare me, as they're preparing as well. But I could also understand, like, for families, that haven't gone through this before, where it's completely new.
Yeah. So do you like talking about it with your parents? Because some kids are like, yes, some kids are like, no. How do you feel about it talking with them?
I think it just depends on my mood on the day. Sometimes I'm really open to talking about it, and sometimes I just don't want to recognize that it's happening, and I'd rather just avoid the topic.
That is so true, and I think that's a good key for parents. If your kid says, "I don't really want to talk about it right now," say that's okay. Just if you do, just know I'm here and I'm available. Some parents don't know how to bring it up, so I give them prompts like, "How are you feeling about your final month or so in high school? Tell me what's coming up, any fears you have around transitioning to the next chapter, whether that's
Mhm.
college or vocation or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that transition or what fears do you have?" These are key questions that I coach families to ask. And if their kids like, "I don't want to talk about it," say, "That's okay. Just I'm available if you do." So that's the other thing. I think people don't know what to say or how to say it or to name what they're going through. So
Mhm.
I've talked to a lot of parents over the last several years about this, and they don't know that grief was an emotion as part of this process. We've
Mhm.
raised our kids for this long. We've spent a lot of time pouring into them. We've attended events or their functions or whatever that is, or supported them emotionally along the way. And now they're individuating and separating, which is a natural part of the developmental process where you want to go on and make your own decisions. You have your critical thoughts and you're thinking on your own. It's a big developmental step that we don't talk a lot about and that parents have a lot of grief around. And they're excited for their kid too. It's not that it's all grief. And they're processing their own journey around this transition.
What we see a lot with the Mayor's Youth Council students towards the end of the year is continuing to show up in the activities that you're a part of, and they are kind of having that mental fatigue of seniors are deciding on college and they're wrapping up, the end of their high school career, and their academics towards the end of the year are still. I can see the stress on their face when they have like finals coming up and graduation and all of those things. And I guess how you manage, Elizabeth, that staying present through the end of your year while looking ahead to going off to school.
Yeah, I think sometimes I have to remind myself, and it's like on a daily basis that like I have commitments now that I have to stay a part of. And even sometimes when I'm waking up from Mayor's Youth Council super early on my Wednesday mornings, I'm like, oh, I really just don't want to go today. But then I'm like, no, like once I go, it's gonna be so great, and like I'm here now. I haven't graduated yet, and so just reminding yourself that like people rely on you now, even though you might not feel as present.
Those are very early mornings. I have to admit, I struggle a little bit with those early mornings. But then when I get there and you all are excited about the projects you're working on, it definitely lifts your spirits for being there that early. But dedication among all the Mayor's Youth Council kids for students for showing up and being present when you're there. And I guess what advice would you give to your peers, along with your peers in Mayor's Youth Council, on like taking care of themselves, staying engaged, and staying active while they kind of move through high school and plan to be seniors, and what to look forward to? And
Yeah, I would just say like find something that like you enjoy to do because I think having all of these events that I have lined up, like Mayor's Youth Council and stuff, it keeps me going through my week. And so I'm not just getting bored of like sitting at home and doing nothing. Cause I think right now, like I don't have any homework and like no, not studying for tests or anything. So I think having things that are keeping me present is super helpful.
Let's talk about fears because I think we're not going to, everybody's got them. No one gets out of this for free. We have fears that we're not going to be good enough. What about friendships? What about what people think of me? What about rejection and putting myself out there in new groups? Like part of transitioning is starting new, starting fresh in a lot of circumstances. And
Mhm.
you're trying to get the courage to put yourself out there and be vulnerable. Tell me about how you're working through those fears.
Mhm. I think also, well, so for me personally, I mean, there's lots of fears going into college of like finding new friend groups and you're kind of starting all over. So I think reminding myself that everyone's in the same boat is super helpful and that no one's like experienced in this when they're all going into the same situation that's unknown. So I think it's super helpful to just recognize that I'm not alone in that and that everyone else around me is going through it.
Yeah, and I think once you practice doing it, like I'm just going to say hi to somebody. I'm just going
Hmm.
to compliment something. Maybe I like their shirt or I ask, where are you from? Or you start some key conversation starters. It gives you the courage to say, okay, like you said, we're all in the same boat. We're all nervous, we're all
Hmm.
scared. We all have some like I'm not good enough in some areas. And I think that's a universal truth that we don't recognize that everybody feels less than and or not quite confident in some areas. And when you kind of go, okay, everybody has insecurities, it helps to validate there's nothing wrong with you.
Hmm.
Yeah. How do you talk about insecurities in your life? Like, do you talk about it with friends? Do you bring it up with anybody?
Yeah, I think talking to friends especially is really good because they're your peers. I think I talk to my parents a lot about it, but it can sometimes be hard for us to relate to each other when we're not in the same stage of life at this point. So I think talking to friends is super good, or just anyone around you. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're talking to, but like getting your feelings out so they're not bottling up is super important, especially when it's about insecurities.
Yeah, I can because we know that suppression of emotions equals depression. So
Hmm.
if someone's like, I'm really struggling and there might be something else going on, but like, what are we? What are we afraid to maybe talk about or share or release? So I know at college campuses, there's also therapists that they
Mhm.
have a counseling clinic, and I always recommend get plugged in early to folks that are
Mhm.
transitioning to that, or if you're transitioning to something else like a job or vocation, there's graduate counseling clinics that are free that offer therapy. So I always recommend if we're afraid to like kind of sometimes take a step. I think we're making progress in that, but I also think that's another available resource. When you get to school, get plugged in. Like, don't be afraid to get that early because they fill
Mhm.
up pretty quickly. So I
Yeah.
recommend that to students too that might want some extra areas that they can just go process and be
Mhm.
vulnerable in if they don't feel quite ready to do that with a new friend group.
Mhm.
Kristen, what are some strategies that the students can use for kind of decompressing and once the school year is over, or even just doing those things now to just sort of that decompression and reset that they can do that would be helpful, wouldn't be a heavy lift on their end, but impactful for them?
Yeah, there's a couple things I recommend. One is we know through Harvard research studies now that the more we are processing and talk, I know I've harped on this so long, but now we have actual data to back this up. The more we are processing, the better off we are. The more we're talking about things, the more secure we're going to feel, and the less shame. Shame says I'm not good enough. And we can work through that anxiety and that worries that we have, that looping thoughts that kind of permeate and keep us up at night or prevent us from putting ourselves out there. So I recommend if you don't have someone to talk to, we're writing it out. A lot of people like to write songs or poetry or write a story or whatever that looks like. Even if you talk into your phone, okay, this is key. Even if you talk into your phone and you're saying you're just even talking to yourself, we know self talk, even out loud. So if you see me around, you're like, okay, who is she talking to? I am talking like out loud. Research shows that those folks have less depression and anxiety than those that are not. So it's clinically proven now that the more they can talk about it. We love music. Music is very therapeutic for many people. We love good music. Have a song list. If you need calming techniques, the breath, and I always recommend to pretty much everybody, even students, even adults, to get bilateral music. So you can download that on Spotify. There's 100 of them and on iTunes. And what that does is it's kind of like being rocked. It's like working with your vagus nervous system, your vagal nervous system, and it goes into parasympathetic. I'm using technical terms, but it's the calming state. So
Mhm.
it's like you're kind of being rocked. So I recommend every college student download bilateral music. And if they're doing homework, if they're stressed about something, they have a lot of fears of that transition, they can put that bilateral music in and their nervous system begins to calm down. You can download that for free also on YouTube. I highly recommend that. Some sort of movement, whether it's walking is phenomenal. Doing any kind of walking. A lot of colleges or in the community will have therapy animals. So they'll have like a therapy dog. At college, I recommend go pet that dog. Like go pet the dog if you don't have any dog anxiety. If you do, that's not going to be real helpful. So there are strategies, and then get plugged into resources. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That is key. Like if you need a tutor, if you need to, someone to help you figure out how to navigate the campus, ask somebody. It's vulnerable. They've all been in your shoes. They all get it. And that can be super helpful. I also think at the end of the day, if we know going into it, it's normal. It's normal to have anxieties. It's normal to feel overwhelmed and stressed. It's normal to feel afraid. We start to go, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. And if
Mhm.
I can tell somebody if they need to hear this and maybe replay this multiple times, there's nothing wrong with you. That's normal. That's appropriate for a life change. Anytime we have a life change, it's going to stir up emotions, and that is normal. That is okay. It's how do we deal with it? So, those are my key strategies for someone going away for college and for the parents. The parents need to put the bilateral music on. If they're doing laundry, if they're preparing for the open house, they're worried about graduation or their kid after school, that's okay. Put the bilateral music on. Calm your nervous system.
I know the Mayor's Youth Council has worked on a lot of initiatives through Tags to Tap and Elizabeth's been a big part of that. So something that is universal. I mean, it can be shared among, they've shared it with community members, caregivers, peers. They'll be handing these out at the Indiana Peony Festival coming up. And also on May 15th, you all are going to be at the schools handing those out. Can you talk about Tags to Tap a little bit to tell our audience about it? And it's really incredible product and that they're making for helping people with just mental health pick me ups and sort of some of the events, Elizabeth, that you all will be working in.
Yeah, so with the mental health group for the Mayor's Youth Council, we've been working with Steve Witta, and he designed these NFC tags. And pretty much they're just little like stickers and they just go on literally anything. So we put them on bracelets, we put them on keychains. And when you tap the back of your phone to it, it pulls up a website. And we have so many different websites now. But pretty much what they do is it either puts you to like a Spotify playlist or, you know, like a little calming quote or a little activity to do. And the point is just to like engage you in recognizing that like it's okay, like what you're going through, but like there are ways to help calm you down. So we've worked with middle schoolers and doing like peer-to-peer messages recently. And so those are super great because, you know, if a middle schooler is stressed about a test or something, they can just tap their phone to, you know, this little sticker and it pulls up a message from another middle schooler who's like, you know, it's okay, like what you're going through. I've been through it too. So it just makes you feel like you're not alone, even if, you know, you feel like you are.
I love this so much. Like, seriously, we could add the bilateral music. That would be,
We could. That'd be great.
but I think that's amazing. And what a resource for students right now to be able to have that and tap their phone and make it accessible quickly.
Hmm.
And to be able to hand it out to other students and just be a little pick me up. I have a few of the devices as well that I scan, and just having the fun games on there. Sometimes it's a good mental break. It's like a fidget toy, but on
Oh,
your
yeah.
screen, and then it has motivational quotes in there. And um, you know, Kristen, you kind of touched on this, but everyone needs that. You know, lifting up sometimes and kind of the mental break just to take a minute and reset. So the Tags to Tap has been incredible, and Steve Witta has been so kind, and he's a senior advisor for our Mayor's Youth Council and working with the students to get their products in stores and in front of other students. And it's really been incredible to see the students love making the products, and they're handmade by the students for the students. And so it's really been awesome to see them excited about something and kind of invest their energy in that, and look for them around town at events and at schools, and they'll be handing those out. And thanks to Elizabeth and her peers for making those. I guess kind of we can transition here to just some ways that um, maybe like the community can get behind these students and help support them as they move on. And you know, I kind of want to touch back on like the pressures for some students that um, sort of tie back to that what's next. I feel like a lot of kids, maybe college isn't what's next for them, and they're having anxiety about that. Or, you know, some kids are going directly into the workforce, some are going to a trade school, to a 4 year school, and how to kind of manage. I'm sure Elizabeth has classmates that are going to have a ton of different plans post graduation, and kind of like how to manage those anxieties for students that feel like maybe pressure that, oh, I'm not going to a 4 year school, but it's incredible whatever, you know, these students are doing next, and kind of how the community can support them and their families can support them um, in whatever they're choosing to do.
I think the first thing is kind of asking kids what lights you up. I mean, instead of what are you doing? I mean, everybody wants to know what's next. And if they say, well, I'm kind of still figuring that out, validate that, empathize with that, because how many of us aren't doing what we majored in? So many people. I mean, I switched careers and that's okay. I mean, we're 18 years old. And if someone doesn't know what they want to do next, that is completely okay. We put a lot of pressure on kids to know and have it locked in, even when they get to college. If they're, what's your major? And you're like, I think it's this. And some people are real clear, and that's fabulous. And then others are not. They're still trying to figure out what they like, what they don't like, who are they, and they'll be figuring that out for a long time. And I always say it's okay to not know. Like, you don't have to know. And if you want resources to know, there's lots of career counselors out there. There's at the high school and other places to help kind of navigate that. But if you're just like, I need to take a gap year, or I want to do vocational school, or I just want to work, that is still figuring out who you are. At the end of the day, that's what this life stage is. Figuring out, who are you? What lights you up? What really don't you like? And a lot of kids don't know until they try different things. And that's okay. That's developmentally appropriate. So I just want to validate and empathize. And if we can, as a community, offer empathy and validation and acknowledgement to where students are in their lives, that's what they need. They need to be heard and understood and seen. How do we do that? We say, what lights you up? They say, well, I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm not sure yet. So that makes total sense. I mean, you're young. I have I'm here if you need anything, if you want to talk, if you just want to, connect, I'm here. That's what support looks like. It's not telling them what they should do. It's not telling them what's wrong with them. It's not like, oh, you're not. Our own stuff and our own judgment can get in the way, and that's not helpful to anybody. Most people don't want advice, and if they do, if a student does, they will ask you. They will say, I don't know, what do you think? Or what, I feel lost, what do you think I should do? They will ask if they want advice. We shouldn't just offer it to them. How do you feel about that, Elizabeth?
No, I agree completely. I think, offering advice if it's asked for, but, not giving it because you've already done your own thing. Like, it doesn't matter what you think, honestly. And so just like, encouraging the student or whatever to go on the path that they feel led and just be like accepting of that.
Yeah, I think that's the greatest gift we can offer another human, whether it's a student, it's another family member, it's anybody in our community, is just listen. Like,
Mhm.
listen. And if you listen and they say, I'm lost, I don't know. So that makes sense. I mean, you're still trying to figure it out. That's okay. Like, how validating is that? Besides us jumping in and telling them, well, when I was your age, I did this.
Mhm.
This is what I did. And that's great. That's wonderful. And that can be counterproductive for
Mhm.
somebody that's really trying to figure it out on their own.
Yeah, it can certainly be overwhelming to hear that. And even when you go into adult life, that happens all the time still. So, kind of learning to manage that now, Elizabeth, you're in a good spot. And as we kind of come to the end of our Mental Health Monday, and it goes very quickly, Elizabeth, kind of can you tell us what you're doing next, what you're most excited about, and just share with us what your plans are?
Yeah, so next year I'm going to Taylor University. And then the plan right now is to study nursing and then minor in orphan and vulnerable children. So,
I
yeah.
love that, Elizabeth. That's
Wow, that is
in
amazing.
alignment with who you are and your
Thank you.
spirit. And so that's exciting. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Elizabeth has been such a bright spot on Mayor's Youth Council, and she's always showing up to help others and give back to the community and managing her academic calendar and her extracurriculars. And she truly is a shining star. So we're excited to see your future and what you have in store and follow your journey into college. And I know you're going to be great and do great things.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're going to make a difference, Elizabeth, because you're being your authentic self. And I think
Mhm.
when you feel like you're being yourself, you're not performative, it's really an alignment with who you are, then the sky's the limit. I think that's what
Mhm.
we're all trying to learn, even as adults, like throughout our adult life. So I'm so excited for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us for this edition of Mental Health Monday. And Elizabeth, thanks again for your time and sharing your insights. And best of luck to you as you graduate and move on to the next step. And again, thank you both. And that kind of wraps us up on this Mental Health Monday.
If you need 988, that's the last thing I'll say for college students or anybody out there. It's the mental health hotline. It's clinicians are on the other side. You can use this in college. I've sent this to a lot of college kids. We're actually seeing results from 988 now with less suicide and less depression and they're correlating that to the 988. So it really makes a difference if anybody you're with or someone's really struggling with the transition and they just need somebody to kind of bridge that. 988, you can call or text 24/7, spread the word because it is working.
Great. Thanks so much. That is a great resource, and appreciate you sharing that with us. And thank you both again. And we'll see you all next month on Mental Health Monday.
Thank you. Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks, Lex.
Thank you.